Okay everyone, let's get to painting pine trees. So the brush selection that we're going to be using, my favorite, which is the fan brush. Now this larger fan brush I would use for a larger tree, and the smaller one I would use for, of course, a smaller tree. Now you'll notice and whenever you're buying your fan brush, this is a synthetic bristle brush. This is more of a natural bristle brush. This is much, it's like bristly, it's like hog's hair. This is softer. So this is going to give you that nice little pity-pat technique that you're going to want. So whenever you purchase one, make sure you get the synthetic one. The next set of brushes I'll be using will be your regular flat brush, and this is a 3/4 inch brush, and this one is a 1/2 inch angled brush. Again, I would use this one for the larger pine tree, and I would use this one for a smaller pine tree. Let's get started. First thing you're going to do is you're going to dip your brush into the water, pull it through the napkin. We want it clean, but we don't want it soppy wet. Next thing you're going to do, we're going to be mixing our paint color, but before I do that, I just again want to go over with you what we're going to be doing. On this side, I'm going to be painting a pine tree as if it were going to be for like a winter scene during the day, or if you're going to have a beautiful blue sky, just a regular daylight. And then on this side, we're going to be painting a silhouetted tree. It's going to be black. So this would be for like nighttime or something very, very dark. But again, both of them, it's basically almost the same technique, but the contrast will be a little bit different. So let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is mix a beautiful evergreen color. We're going to be mixing the green and the brown, the burnt umber. Now, we have many species of pine trees, and some of them are darker, some of them are lighter. Some have longer needles, some have shorter needles. If you want to make this darker, I would not add more brown. I would start adding black to it. But I'm going to go ahead and keep this an evergreen color for now. And I'm going to load my brush, but I'm not going to gob it. I'm going to pull this off the side of the plate. See that nice chisel edge I have on that? That's exactly what I want. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to be making what basically is the tree trunk, but it's a guideline. Now when I draw this on here, you're going to put the brush flat to the paint, to the paper like this. You're not going to drag it down like this. You're not going to go this way. You're going to be right up on the chisel edge and bring it down. Just like that. Okay? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our paint. And again, I'm not going to really gob it on, just have a nice load on there. Now, pine trees, when you look at a pine tree, they have a very specific look. They have a point to them, now, which I'm going to show you right now. Do you see how these have points on them? Because when you look at it, oh, that's a pine tree because there's a point on it. So don't lose that point. When you start your pity patting, you're going to not start at the top, you're going to start down just a little bit, and you're going to start with your pity patting. Now you're pity patting. I do not want you to pity pat like this. I don't want you to go flat. I don't want you to go like this, flat, 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 flat. That's not what I want. I want you to be on the edge, on the corner of your brush, pity patting. Go back into my paint. So on the edge, down from the point, you're going to start pity patting left to right. Pity pat, pity pat, pity pat, pity pat. Pity pat, pity pat. Now, you see how I'm not filling this all in? I'm going to go all the way down. I'm just doing a guide right now, just a guide. Pity pat, pity pat. That's just a guide. I'm going to go back in, and I do want to fill in the center. You don't want to see that tree trunk. Pine trees are pretty full, so you should never really see the tree trunk. Pity pat through that. And do you see how I maintained that point on there? Now, doesn't that already look like a pine tree? Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do some highlights on that. So I'm going to wash my brush out. Now, with any type of painting, especially with trees, especially outdoor painting, always be aware of your light source. Very, very important. I'm just going to draw on right in the middle. This is either going to be a sun or it's going to be a moon for both of these pine trees. But I want you to remember where your light source is. So my light source is coming from this way onto this tree, okay? So the next thing you're going to want to do, you're going to go into your paint, your white paint. Now, I am gobbing this. There's a lot of gob on that. First thing we're going to do is we're going to come down on this one side only. Okay. Randomly here and there. Randomly here and there. Okay, just a little bit here and there. I'm not going on this side because my light source is here, so I want this to be shaded. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into my angled brush and I'm going to make a smaller tree now. Same technique. Load the brush up. Point is going to be towards the top like this. And again, I'm going to make this line go down like this. Now, when you're placing your trees, you never want them to be straight and very uniform. You don't want them to look like soldiers. You want them to be angled differently and you want them to be overlapping each other. So this little tree, I'm going to overlap this larger tree. I'm going to go into the paint. Again, I'm going to come down and I'm going to pity-pat, not on the point, but on the base part of the brush. I'm going to come down, pity-pat, pity-pat, pity-pat. Again, I'm just outlining it. And I'm going to have this tree in front of this big tree. So I'm going to cover it. Just like that. Okay, smaller, and it's kind of an angle. I'm going to clean my brush off. I'm going to come in and I'm going to get the white. Again, this side of the tree, pity-pat. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm probably going to come back in and get a little bit more on top of that. So I'm going to go to the next brush, which is the fan brushes, and I'm going to do the black tree. Just going to wet that down, clean it off a little bit. I'm going to go into my black, flip it, flip it. It's not really gauby. Look at that beautiful chisel. Look at that chisel edge on that. This is one of my favorite brushes. I've had this brush since I was 14 years old, and I'm pretty old. So this is a nice brush. It's really worn. I love it. So again, I'm going to do my base. Come all the way down. And then with this brush, you can pity-pat right on the flat edge like this. You can, although it's not my favorite technique, you can do that with a fan brush. I'm going to pity-pat with the side here, just like we did with the flat brush. Grab some paint. Again, start at the top, come down, pity-pat. And again, I'm not filling it in. I am just going to get an outline here. Now, don't worry about this bottom part here. See how messy that is? We're going to go in and put some ground cover on that. Don't worry about that. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to fill. I can actually just go like that. Fill it all in. Anytime that you're doing a silhouette, a black silhouetted pine tree, or any tree for that matter, make sure you can't see through the center. Okay, see how you can see through the center right there? I'm going to pity pat that in. You really don't want that. Now look at that lovely, lovely foliage there. I just love the technique with the fan brush. Got that one, and I'm going to put it in my water, and I'm going to go to the tiny one. Wet it down. I'm going to do a little brush, just a little one here. Pity pat. Love it. Really nice. Love that. That looks really nice. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my flat brush because this is dried a little bit more. I'm going to let that dry. We're going to come back here. Now I'm going to add a little bit more snow to it. I'm going to come down here. Now say you change your mind and you say, oh, you know what, I want that little tree in the background, which you can. If you want, then you could come down through here and just pat through here with the snow. And just by leaving this corner shaded green and coming through here with the white, it gives the illusion of this tree being in front of that tree. So you can, on the fly, you can make decisions like that very easily. You can add a little bit more here. Okay, so on the base here, I'm going to go into some white, and I'm just going to go like this, come down, and always make it irregular. So in other words, there's a hill here. I'm just going to go like this. Look at that gob of paint I'm using. Just gob it down and make it look like little hills of snow, freshly fallen snow. And if you use more paint when it dries, it's going to give you a lot of texture on that. Now, you don't want to overdo snow on the trees. You can overdo it. Just do it randomly here and there. I'm going to go back to the silhouetted tree. I'm going to clean my fan brush. Now, when you do that, when you do the highlighting, you can use a couple different colors. Now on this one over here, as you can see, because I have a sunset and I have a lot of orange here, I decided to pick up orange as a highlight here because it's glowing from, it's getting the glow from the light from the sky. So you want it to be orange. You can do purple, you can do lavender, you can even do blue on there, you can do gray on there. I'm just going to do a little bit of orange for you, just because the other example I showed you had orange on it. So again, here's my light source, it's coming through, so you're only going to shade this side and this side of the pine tree, randomly here and there. Now you don't want to fill that whole thing up. You do not want to fill that all up with highlight. It won't look right. Make sure it's random. You can even pull some of this down like that. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to pull a little bit of orange through there. And you know, I'm going to wipe off my brush and I'm going to go into some yellow. Just do a little bit of highlighting here and there. Just a little bit of random here and there. Okay, once you have that, then on the base here, I'm going to go into the black. Just going to fill this all in. And the nice thing about the fan brush, you can pull it this way, and look at that. You can put little wispies, silhouettes of grass. You do that. And then when you do that, you're going to go into the highlight again and just pull some through here to make it look like it has a little bit of a sloping going on with some highlights. Okay, So there we have it. Just to recap, whenever you're placing any trees, you don't want them to be like soldiers. You want to place them, you know, this one this, like this, make them irregular. And if you want to make them look like they're farther in the distance, now these trees are side by side, but if I wanted these trees to be way in the distance, they would be a lighter color. Trees closer to you would be darker. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please email us. We'd love to hear from you. Bye-bye.